Hello and welcome to 2024. I'm Jim Kahrs, and I tell you what, I can't believe that we've already cruised through another year and are embarking on the next. But I want to take a couple of minutes and give you some of my thoughts as far as what the future for 2024 and beyond may hold, and what are some of the things that you may want to have in your sights for the year and working on. First, I could say that we're talking with a lot of dealers and resellers. A big theme is really just being back to business. That we can really say that the effects of the pandemic are behind us, and we need to focus on really getting the business back to where it was or better than what it was back in 2019. And I know as we work through budgets with a bunch of our clients, that has been one of the focal points, is how can we look at this as compared to 19 and make sure that we're budgeting and planning to exceed those 2019 numbers. One of the other things that kind of has gone along hand in hand with that is that most of the folks that we talk to have been looking at some way of diversifying or adding more products and more services to their portfolio. And what's really interesting is that it's very widely different from one to the next. We've got a bunch of folks that have really started looking more and more at things like security and access control. Obviously, those that are in the copy print world have already been, and many are looking at getting into managed services and software and that whole network management side of the business. But there's lots of other opportunities out there as well, and I think what's really important is to understand when you're looking at the concept of diversifying, the key thing is to look at how can you leverage your strengths, your structure, and your contacts. So if you're looking at how you could diversify into different product or service offerings, I would suggest look at how you could take products to customers you're already dealing with decision makers you already have relationships with, that they have a real need for, and that they'll trust you when it comes time to bringing those types of products to bear. And again, it doesn't have to be pigeonholed into what everybody else is doing. Again, I've seen so many, from folks selling water to LED lights. I mean, it seems like an endless amount of directions you could go with diversifying. But definitely something that I would say have your eyes on. How could you leverage your strengths, your systems, your infrastructure, and your customers to increase your business and increase your profitability? The next thing I think is going to be important, and this kind of plays in somewhat to the diversification, is that we're going to be continuing to work in an environment that does have somewhat of a focus on the remote work, that work from home or that hybrid model of sometime in the office and sometime of working from home. And there's both opportunities and challenges there. And I think that's going to continue. I personally don't see any end of that. I think that's one change that the pandemic brought about that's going to be somewhat permanent here going forward. So look at how, again, can you leverage your strengths and weaknesses to best serve that remote or that hybrid model, both for your own business as well as for your customers. And that's, when we talk about your own business, that's really an important piece of this puzzle. Another thing that's been very difficult of late is finding good quality employees. And if you go back to pre-2019, the focus was really all geographic. It had to be somebody who was in your area that they could report to the office every day. So you had a limited pool geographically that you could pull from. Well, with the abilities that we have now to do remote work and really be productive remotely, it does open up the ability to hire from almost anywhere. For some, obviously there's some positions like technicians and sales that probably need to be there on the ground because they have to get in front of customers. But a lot of the back office stuff does not have to be somebody in the office all day, every day. So it opens up opportunities, and I would say as you go through 2024, be open to that. Positions where you might not have thought you could do a remote position, you may want to reconsider and see how you could do that. The next thing that will somewhat go hand in hand with that when it comes to the concept of how do we increase overall productivity is, unless you've been living under a rock, you've heard an awful lot about AI, right? Artificial intelligence and what AI can do to increase productivity, increase results in any company. And if you haven't started playing with that, I would recommend that you do so. ChatGPT is a real easy way to start to get in and figure out things you can do and ways you can develop content, or you can come up with productivity enhancing activities that can be done automatically with AI. But I would say also start looking at how can you leverage AI in especially your sales efforts. Again, salespeople are sometimes the hardest employees to be able to locate and to get trained and to get up and running. And a big part of what we try to get a sales rep to understand is how can they identify the right prospects? How can they get in front of those right prospects at the right time? And AI is going to be a tool that can offer a lot of automated assistance with that. So if you haven't been starting to read up and study and learn and play with and test drive AI in any way, I strongly recommend that you do so, because it's not going away. So dip your toes in the water, learn what you can. If you do some online videos, do some online courses. I have a client that recently they had an AI symposium in their area. They sponsored it, and then all attended, and they're starting to leverage that technology now to a real benefit for themselves. So again, I strongly urge you, if you've shied away from it, start to work yourself slowly into it and learn it and understand it. The next thing that I think is going to be important for everybody to understand is that we're obviously coming into this year as an election year. And election years definitely can have a big impact on the business and the economy. I think we've heard the predictions, that a recession has hopefully been staved off and not going to happen, but that interest rates will now start coming down in 2024. That will hopefully make it easier when it comes time to selling product to end users. But in general, in election years, things in the economy tend to be stronger. A lot of it obviously focused on the folks that are in office and want to stay in office, doing everything they can to grease the wheels to make business work better. So an election year typically means it's a pretty good year. So I would say, focus on that and use it to the best that you can. And then the last piece that I want to talk about here, and looking into 2024, and probably the most common question that I get is, what is the merger and acquisition landscape going to look like? And in my opinion, in the industries that we work in here in the office systems world, we just came off a very strong merger acquisition year, and I expect 2024 is also going to be a very strong year. And I think there's one piece of the puzzle that some folks haven't really considered, and that is, with the amount of private equity that has come into the different industries that we work with, private equity, when they go out and they start acquiring, there's a clock ticking in the background. The private equity game plan typically is that they buy a company, they then do some add-ons or bolt-on acquisitions where they buy others, and they look to build it to a larger company. They build the profitability and the EBITDA up with the eye towards somewhere, and it varies from group to group, but somewhere between 5 years and 10 years, the goal is to take that company and then sell it off and roll it up to another larger private equity company. So if you look at the industries that we're in, like, for example, copy print especially, there's a whole bunch of private equity groups that have been in this space for more than 5 years. So you have to believe they're getting, some of these folks, though they might not make it public, are getting to the point where they're going to start looking at how and when do we exit these investments. And for them, an exit means a sale. So I have a feeling we're going to see in 24 or shortly after that, some of these larger private equity groups likely selling either to others or selling to some larger entity and then others following suit. But where we've seen these roll-ups, I think we're going to see some mega roll-ups in the not too distant future, just because of the nature of the private equity model. So what does that mean for folks in the industry? If you're getting to a point where you're thinking about, should I be looking at a sale of the business or an exit, the timing could be very good in the next year, next couple of years. So make sure, if you're thinking about that you get your company ready, that you can present as best as possible, and you can show the strongest numbers and the strongest books. But because, again, my prediction is that the merger and acquisition activity is not going to slow down anytime soon. But again, we'll keep an eye and see, if and when we get some of these larger roll-ups, either to a big PE or maybe to a big manufacturer. I wouldn't be surprised either if we see some of the manufacturers wind up, one buying another, or mergers, or there's going to be a continued consolidation. So I think all in all, just to wrap up, 2024 to me has the look of what could be a very strong year. There will always be challenges. That's not something that's ever going to go away. But I think if you position yourself and you make the right moves, there really is no reason why 24 can't be a spectacular year, and that can just springboard into 25 and beyond. So that wraps up this look ahead to what 2024 can bring and what my thoughts are on that. I wish everybody a very prosperous and happy 2024, and if there's anything that we here at Prosperity Plus can do to help you, by all means, reach out and let me know. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care.